It has either zero fiber or virtually no fiber compared to seaweed, which is all fiber. And it is the most nutrient-dense food in the universe. Something like, it's so tiny, it's called microalgae because it's microscopic. You can't see it by your eye. Something like 1 million cells of microalgae would fit on the head of a pin. So that's why when you consolidate them into these little tablets that we have that are about the size of a baby aspirin, each one of these tiny little tablets has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. And it's got 40 vitamins and minerals, highest protein in the world. Ours is 3 times the amount of steak, highest chlorophyll in the world. You see how concentrated nutrition it is, and I call it efficient nutrition, and we'll get to that in a minute. So microalgae, very concentrated nutrition, virtually zero fiber, and it does exist. There's tens of thousands of strains of it. Macroalgae, there's only a few strains. Microalgae is everywhere. It's not just in the sea. It's in your swimming pool, as you mentioned, your aquarium, the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the soil. It's also in the soil. But the two that are harvested as food crops are spirulina and chlorella. And these are grown in fresh water. Primarily, 99% of it is in Asia. That's where the entire algae industry started. It actually started in Japan. So whether you go to Costco or Whole Foods or Target and you buy your spirulina or chlorella there, they're pretty much usually grown in fresh water. You'll find out what distinguishes our brand from those ones, and it's all in the production process, because those ones use high heat because they're lower priced, so they have to get to market quickly. And the high heat kills some very important nutrients that you want, because they kill they kill free radicals, they stop free radical damage of your mitochondria, and they kill cancer cells. And those are pretty important things to talk about. So ours have those nutrients in them. But generally, spirulina and chlorella are the two that you see around, and they are harvested as food crops. They're known as a superfood because they have so much concentrated nutrition, but as you're going to learn today, I call them super duper foods because it goes way beyond being a superfood, and it will nourish you in ways that nobody knows about because nobody's told you, but I have the science to help you understand it. So that's the two categories, the macro and microalgae, and then within micro, you've got the spirulina and chlorella, which are harvested as agricultural crops.
In the production of chlorella and spirulina, like the commercial production, what does it look like in the vats or the tanks where it's growing? I mean, is it like it would look on a fish tank, like a film, like a slimy film that's on the edges of its container?
Yeah, it sort of looks, slimy is probably a good word to describe it. It kind of, spirulina is simpler to grow. Chlorella is very complex. And so it looks a little bit like the seaweed, but then so we grow ours in Taiwan, which is sort of is known as the gold standard for algae. The certifications are harder to get, and it's a very big industry. Most algae, unfortunately, that you find in any of these stores, we don't sell ours through mass retailer because it's physician grade and such high quality. So we sell only through biohacking and centers, longevity centers. We're now working with the IV drip community, chiropractors, and some prestige retailers. But it's because the water we grow it in is triple filtered. This is very important because algae, like we talked about at the very beginning with the pond scum thing, algae will absorb whatever's in the water. So if the water is not clean, very carefully clean, it will absorb whatever's there. And so a lot of people were eating algae that grew in Klamath Lake, and I have scientific papers.
I was going to ask you about that, the Klamath Lake blue-green algae.
Yeah, please don't use that.
I used to take that. It was frozen. Yeah. It was like in a frozen thing, and then you would have to put it in the refrigerator and thaw it out a little bit. It was very volatile and prone to spoiling. But I always wondered about that because of I wasn't even thinking about water pollution, but just the air pollution.
There are mycotoxins in wild bodies of water. So it's the lakes, the rivers, the oceans. You just can't keep them out. It took me 2 years to find a lab that tests for mycotoxins. So I think we're the only company. We do third-party lab tests for nutrition and metals and all the other toxins, but we do a separate set of labs for mycotoxins. Of course, we never have any because it's grown in triple filtered spring mountain water. But please, whoever's listening, do not ever eat any algae that comes from an ocean or a lake, because you just can't keep them out of the algae. It's impossible. And most people don't test for them. So the quality of the water is very, very important. There's different strains of algae, by the way, just like there's different strains of, beef. You have Kobe beef, and then you have, if you even want to call it beef, McDonald's beef. We use the higher quality strains, so it starts with the higher concentration of nutrition. And then the most important thing that you need to know is that we do not use high heat to dry it, and virtually everybody else does. And I want to underscore this because growing algae is not like growing broccoli or cauliflower, which are pretty standard things to grow. Growing algae is more like growing wine, and the production process determines all the different flavorings and the elements in it, as well as actually as the angle of the sun. This is one of the reasons why Taiwan has some of the best, is known for having the highest concentration or quality. It's the sun angle as well as the production processes they go through. There is some algae grown in Hawaii, but it tends to be milder, again, because of that angle of the sun. I plan to grow it in America when we're bigger. And I drew a line across on the globe from Taiwan to see where it would get me in America. And it's smack dab in the middle of Florida. And I'm actually moving to Florida next year. It won't be, it'll be more where the orange groves are. It needs to be in a subtropical environment. And because algae grows in water, you can put it anywhere on land where you're not taking land away from other crops, because you create this ponds of water. There is algae now being grown indoors in glass tubes, just to let people know. And they refer to that as fermented algae. I don't know where they call it. And it tends to be a little milder, not as concentrated in the nutrients. But ultimately, that's probably where the algae industry will have to go. Because as the United Nations indicated, it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. And to feed the world, we will need to probably start growing it in those glass tubes, because there's some grown in Iceland, for example. It's underground. 6 floors of glass tubes being fed with LED lights to grow this algae. Now, they grow theirs primarily for omega-3 purposes. There's other companies that grow it just for the phycocyanin, which is the blue pigment. We'll talk about the healing properties of that in a minute. But so there's different methodologies. The world is waking up to algae. It's been around, as I said, for billions of years, used as an industrial crop for over 60 years in Asia. But because, and we'll address this in a minute, our food supply is so damaged, levels of chronic disease are just on a trajectory that's unacceptable to anybody. And it's primarily because we're missing critical nutrients and we have too many toxins. And as you're going to find out, algae addresses both of those hands down better than anything else in the world. We just need to get it into people. So we do grow ours in I'm a purist the way Mother Nature intended it to be, but who knows, maybe one day as we get bigger and we need to get this to more people, that could be a methodology that we use. So that fact that we don't use high heat to dry it, and we would continue doing that however we grew it in the water, is essential for preserving the nutrients. And I can get into that now, or we can get into it later. And then what we do is we package it in UV protected packaging bags and canisters. Which
people watching the video.
Yeah. So this is important because light will pull the chlorophyll out of the algae. The funny thing about algae is that we are required by the FDA to put an expiry date on it. So it's usually 3 years. So it's a pretty good extended lifetime. But technically, algae never goes bad. So you could literally have this for 10 or 20 years, still would be fine. It may not taste very good. And here's why. Algae is the most interesting crop. Any other crop, tomatoes, corn, wheat, if the growing conditions deteriorate, like no sun or no rain, they die, right? In fact, I think they had too much rain in the California area right now, and so the poor wine growers are panicking. But anyways, if the growing conditions deteriorate, any other crop will die, not algae. it will just go dormant indefinitely until the growing conditions return, and then it will grow again.